All right. We are here on a Tuesday morning and we are live. You just missed an epic sneezing attack. I might have another one just now. We'll see how it goes. Jack says to me, it sounded like rocket fire.
Yeah, something was about to lift off.
Goodness, I'm in Gaza. Anyway. All right, let's get cracking, everybody. We got things to do, people to see, places to go.
Yes,
so much to talk about this morning. Tuesday on cliffcentral.com and so many cool things. Among other things this morning, Democracy 101,
yep.
Which is where we keep track on the build-up to the elections, which I think people are more excited about than I've ever seen them.
Yeah.
I don't think it's saying too much.
I think it says a lot, actually.
Well, yeah, but I mean, people genuinely give a shit.
Yeah,
which is nice.
Which is great. That's always fun.
You don't have to. You used to go out with, and I'm always interested in politics. I would always talk to people about what was happening in the elections, and there were always a lot of them that were, nah, not really that interested.
Yeah, and most of the time, before this year. Before this year, whenever you bring up politics or elections, you wouldn't get too many intelligent responses.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, they're just crooks. And that's it. It's okay, well, thanks for that nugget.
Yeah, really helpful of you.
I feel so informed right now.
You're so insightful. Oh, my God.
Never thought of that before. Wow.
Hey, the good news this week, because this is something I've been firmly on the side of this guy for the longest time, is that the Vodacom Please Call Me guy. He gets a monster payday.
Yep.
So I don't know if you saw this, but Kenneth Makate's victory against Vodacom for his Please Call Me idea sparked a legal dispute over compensation. So during the Supreme Court's ruling in his favor, the exact amount remains contested. Makate is a former Vodacom finance manager, rejected an offer of $47 million from the company's CEO. So that's obviously at the very low end.
Yeah,
of what he's going to get. The Supreme Court of Appeals ordered Vodacom to pay him between 5 and 7.5% of the total revenue generated by the project over 18 years plus interest. He's declined to disclose his expected compensation, stating the court's order should be implemented first. So now they're going to have to go and calculate how much this Please Call Me has made them.
Over 18 years.
Over 18 years.
That is insane.
It's a big payday.
You see, if they had just paid him in the beginning, if they had just settled with him right in the beginning,
they would have saved themselves all this pain. But this is typical because these companies are so arrogant and they think, this is a little guy. We'll just wrap him up in court, for months and years, which is what they tried to do. And I don't want anyone standing up for Vodacom on this, because as much as I'm all for capitalism, this isn't capitalism. This is
greed.
This is extortion by them. And I'm never on the side of the big guy in a situation like this. And nobody should be, really.
Yeah.
This dude, fair and square, came up with this thing. They fought it. The courts decided exactly that. Over and over again. These guys have no ideas of their own, these big corporations. So they hide behind teams and teams of lawyers. And then when they don't win,
they pout.
They go, but poor us. So guess what they're going to do now? These sons of bitches. They're going to hike their prices because they're going to have to pay this guy.
Yeah.
So they're going to make you pay.
Yeah.
For him. For their stupidity in not settling with him at the beginning.
Exactly. Not
giving him credit. Now you're going to pay as a Vodacom. I'm not with them, so I could care less.
Yeah, same here. In fact, if I were if I were a person that could get movements going, I'd actually get people to boycott Vodacom until they pay this man every cent that he deserves.
Hey, Ryan, by the way, there's still music playing over us on the app. So just kill that somewhere, wherever it is. Sorry.
Yeah, so I would galvanize people to just not use Vodacom services anymore until they pay the man.
Well, if you're a user, I'm not a user, so it doesn't bother me.
But ultimately, people are going to, as you said, they're going to pay a lot more for that service just to pay this guy. Meanwhile, truth be told, they actually do have the money. It's not that they don't.
Well, you see, I don't feel sorry for these telcos anyway, because And MTN have got their own pile of shit now because they're involved in Iran, and as you know, that's not looking so good.
Yeah,
Cell C is a disaster. So I mean,
Mhm.
between all three of the big telcos, and I think Jack and I are both on Telcom.
Yes,
we're
we
like,
are.
yay, we'll
Yeah,
take it.
go.
Telcom
Please.
used to be the joke of all of them.
Yeah.
But actually, Vodacom have got this please call me thing. MTN have got the Iran thing. Cell C is still in complete disarray. Who knows what they've been doing for the last 3
I
years.
haven't actually seen any Celsi branding in a very long time. I don't even know. I forgot about them completely.
I think they don't have any marketing budget. Who knows?
Yeah.
But those three are finished. And I don't feel a single sad cell for those people. Cell are used on purpose.
Yeah.
Double entendre. But I remember how they used to charge us R2.50 an SMS back in the day.
Oh, yeah, that was a real thing.
Back in the day.
That was a real thing.
I can remember when they were scalping us.
Mm-hmm.
They were charging like a wounded buffalo. I don't feel any sympathy.
None whatsoever.
There were days where data, now it's obviously cheaper because there's so many other people in the market. And again, this is the wonder of capitalism. This is what makes it so great, is that there are new people who've come in. There's Rain. There are all these other guys who are now saying, well, we'll give you this huge 10 gigs of free data if you sign up with us. But we must never forget how these people used all of us to start up these massive businesses. And you remember there used to be advertising for them everywhere. They were, like right now, you could see all the advertisings coming from the online betting people.
Right.
It used to be the telcos. Before that, it was the cigarette companies. And
when they could still advertise.
Yeah, there were a whole lot of these. There's a different stage in all of this. But I think it's hilarious. And I don't care. It's good.
I actually only feel sad for, people that are not part of higher management. People that just go to work every single day just to put food on the table. Those are the people I have, an iota of some sort of feeling towards. But I mean, these top brass people, nah, they can go jump.
Actually, yes, I had a conversation the other day because we went to see them, all of them. We went and saw all three when we were launching Cliff Central. And we were like, listen, guys, how about you zero rate this to help along a brand new media platform in a new world where there are going to be lots of other people. I mean, we were the first big podcasters, and we said to them, they're going to be a lot more. And they are now, right?
Yes, they're everywhere.
And everybody's got a podcast now, and that's good.
Mm-hmm.
But they were like, nah, we don't need to do that. Let your listeners pay. I was like, all right. So now, don't expect any sympathy from me.
What goes around comes around.
That one we are not going to tolerate at all. At all. At all. I've said.
I love it.
All right. Jack Motlanthe, what's on your mind this morning?
Bro,
what are you thinking about on a Tuesday?
I'm always, it always puts a smile on my face when South Africans just give a middle finger to the government and authorities. And they decide.
Must be our internal rebelliousness.
Yeah, like they just don't care. Like there's this really cool community in Limpopo, close to Begersfort, at Tok. So instead of waiting for the government to show up with some sort of a solution, they got down to work. So they chased out all of those illegal miners and filled up all the trenches that these guys left behind.
You see, I do love these resourceful self-starters.
Yeah.
Who, I mean, I keep thinking of all those small towns across South Africa where the people of the town go and they fill the potholes. Not the municipality, not the local, kind of councillors. It's the ordinary people.
Everyday
they go and they fill the
people.
potholes.
Yeah.
They fix the sewage system. They fix the plumbing and electricity. They sort out as much as they can. Now, there's a limit to what you can do as a community. You can't run a power plant.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's beyond the scope of most small towns.
True.
Let alone the big towns.
Mm-hmm.
But there are things you can do.
There's a lot that we can do. And it also shows just how much we can get done when we are better organized as everyday people, instead of having to wait for some town hall meeting and all of this stuff. These guys just came together, had a discussion. They were like, okay, we've got a problem. Does anyone have a creative solution to this? And someone put their hand up and then they followed their lead.
Last Wednesday, we drove through, say, Crown Mines, Rosettenville, that area.
Yeah.
Which I haven't been through for a long time. And Pumi was in the car with me, and she said to me, this is where all the Zamazamas are. And we could see them. They were doing their thing there.
Yeah.
Nobody's stopping them.
Nope.
Nobody's arresting them.
But
I know there was
Rosettenville is like,
ooh, it's dodgy.
it's a high, hey, man. Like,
you can see that's the sort of place where people end up in a bath with their organs removed.
Genuinely,
Right.
that place reminds me of Soweto in the early 90s, like where there were like even certain
Dodgy.
places that you were afraid to go to. Like, do you know what I mean?
You-
Rosettenville is like, hey man, it jumped out of a horror movie, a
Right.
South African version of a horror movie, rather.
Mm.
Like, ugh,
No, it's a very scary place.
it is. It
I
is.
mean, that's there used to be this famous Portuguese restaurant out there. That was the last time I was there. It was probably January of last year,
Mhm.
and it was at night. And this restaurant is famous. It's like they really make amazing. I wish I could remember the Pararinha or Pilaparinya. I can't remember. Anyway, someone in the comments will remind me, because it's this institution. It was famous.
Yeah.
They eventually, after trying to keep Rosettenville alive for years, they were like, no. Even we're
we
out
can't
here.
do this.
And they'd been there for, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 years maybe.
That's insane.
And they had ties hanging from the ceiling that some old guy had put up there when they discovered gold.
Like, oh my God. And
No,
now
I
they're
mean,
gone.
it's a bit of an exaggeration.
Yeah, sure.
But this place was quite famous. And I remember parking outside there on this weeknight when we were there for someone's birthday. And I thought, look, I'm sure the food's okay, but I would never come here just for a good meal.
Yeah, just
There are lots of-
voluntarily. Yeah.
You know what? Honestly, just give me Mr. Delivery.
Yeah, let's call it a night.
I'm okay with not
Let
having to
us
drive
call-
here.
And like a lot of people call you a coward or a punk or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, look, I'll be the coward today if
Yeah.
I'll see tomorrow. Like,
Oh.
I'm not gambling like that just to get a meal.
You try
It's
and
not
get home
happening.
on 3 wheels. Anyway, Alliance says they've franchised. They're in Melrose here. Yeah, but now what are
Oh,
they
no.
called? This is what I'm trying to give these guys credit, because they really did. They stayed to the bitter end.
Yeah.
They waited until it was just them and drug dealers.
Yeah. And then they were like, okay.
La Parerina.
Oh,
I can't speak Portuguese, but that's my best attempt.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, Proper
You
Jet.
did a lot better than I would have. I can guarantee you that.
I love it. So active citizenry. We
Yeah.
see it happening here, there, and everywhere. Very, very good news.
I love it.
Yeah. There was also a story the other day in the news about a bunch of people. I think it was somewhere in KZN. They got together and they decided they're not paying their rates and taxes
Mm-hmm.
to the municipality. They're going to start a trust account,
Mhm.
which they did with lawyers, and they are paying it into there. They will not hand over the money until the municipality does its job.
See what now that's
Yeah.
leadership of character. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And it can be done.
It can be.
See, it takes the first brave few people. This is like what happened with e-tolls.
Mm.
When in
Mm.
the beginning we all thought, oh no, we're going to have to hand over thousands of rands every month to these crooks and vultures.
Yeah.
You remember it was like a whole bunch of ANC people who were involved, and then they were asking us to like get our licenses redone every 3 years or something ridiculous. Then they were going to charge us for driving on the roads
Which is
that
insane.
we'd already paid for.
Exactly.
And people just went, nah,
No.
not going to happen.
Actually, that's not gonna happen.
Not
And
today.
I
Satan.
think the most annoying part about those stupid e-tolls is that there were like 15 of them in a stretch of 30 kilometers. Like, why should there be so many of them in the first place? I don't
Yeah,
get it.
I mean, they tried to give them like cool, like animal names.
It's like, we don't care.
Name them after birds.
No, we
South
don't
Africans are like, all
No.
we care about is that you dismantle this shit.
care. Yeah.
Get it off my road.
Now they look like all year Christmas decorations because they're always on. But
And
I don't
guess
think.
what? They're still fixing roads, so they didn't, and no one's paying their e-tolls.
Yeah,
So
no
it
one
was
is.
pure scalping. That's all
Yeah.
they were doing. They were stealing, creaming off the top.
Yeah.
Son of
And
bitches.
typical of the ANC-led government, e-tolls, like we did not meet 4 of the 8 criteria needed for those things to actually be viable in this country, and yet they still put them up.
Oh Not surprised. Somebody says, though, that they tried that whole thing of starting a trust account and paying money into it in Westville in KZN, and it did not have a good outcome. For some reason, I think it was somewhere else that I've been talking about, but I'll check up on that and make sure that I don't.
What does he mean by they didn't have a good outcome? What does that exactly mean?
I think it just failed. They challenged it in court and eventually decided they couldn't do it. That was the case in Westville, but I do remember there's another place where they've tried it and successfully been able to put their money into this trust account and to not let the municipality get hold of it until they've done their job. We've got to hold their feet to the fire.
We have to.
In whatever way we can.
Genuinely.
Again, and I don't want to talk about this too much because we've spoken about it ad infinitum over the last, feels like 14 years, because it probably is. But this load shedding thing is so outrageous.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I don't know how much power you had.
By 8 p.m. it was gone.
So a friend of mine in a little village, town, said to me that he hasn't had power for like days. Which means they haven't had water for days, which means they haven't been able to wash clothes, any of that shit.
Cook, clean. That's just horrible.
Right. And then we have a government that talks to us about like, oh, but in the Constitution, they talk about human dignity. If people don't have electricity and water in 2024, guess what? They don't have any dignity.
They don't.
Yeah, Lichtenberg. There we go. The Lichtenberg people have a trust, Shani says. Good work. That's not in KZN, but yes, excellent. Those are the people I think I was indicating have done this as an experiment.
We actually need to see a lot more of that. You know, like instances like those are the reason I now feel like South Africans are getting pissed off enough, right? Because you cannot be consistently angry without doing something about it.
And also, you can't be angry without coming up with a plan.
There you go.
Like, you can't just be angry, because otherwise it's just histrionics.
Yeah.
You know, you'd expect that from an infant. They just have a tantrum and nothing constructive comes from the tantrum. You actually have to figure out a way that you're going to now solve this problem yourself, because you clearly can't rely on the government. Now, obviously, there's some things that you cannot do.
Sure.
And that even a small or a large community of people cannot achieve. You know, things like power generation, for example. But there are lots of other small things along the way that you can do.
You can put together, yeah.
And I've always believed this, and I mean, it's now February, so for a lot of people, tax month. You should not give a single solitary cent to this government that they don't deserve.
Yeah.
That you are not legally obliged to hand over.
Yeah.
If you give them 1 cent more than that, as I've said many times, you are an accessory to a crime.
Yep. And when Roman was here a couple of weeks ago, he mentioned the fact that they only collect about 20% of it anyway. Like the rest of it is just compliance, which means SARS is actually
so we're actually
a hole in the wall. Technically, it's like they just
most people. You know, somebody said to me the other day, the thing about tax is that it is actually voluntary.
Yeah.
You know, they if you're not compliant, clearly they'll come after you. But our law still maintains that it is a voluntary system. How voluntary? I'm not sure, because if you don't pay, they'll put you in jail.
There you go.
As they've done with many people. Anyway, on a serious note, says Mac, what the fuck is the cause of the sabotage? Come on. Well, it's a good question. I think it's people who are on the take and people who have contracts to fix things.
Yeah.
Inside of, and all you have to do to figure out who's responsible for this is find out who's replacing the things.
Yeah.
Who gets paid to bring in new parts and to restore the thing, to then go after those people, take away their contract, sue them to pieces in court, put them in jail for sabotaging the country, for treason. In fact, they should be put in jail for treason.
As well as the people that were the ones in charge of putting them in those positions.
Yes, correct.
Because they're just as guilty.
See, again, a lot of our problems go away in this country. In fact, I would say most of our problems would go away in this country if there was just accountability.
Yeah.
And by accountability, I mean people being put in jail. And I'm not talking about people who are not tax compliant. While that's a problem for any government to deal with, that should not be their priority problem. Their priority problem should be who is stealing the money you've already collected in taxes.
There you go.
Who's embezzling that, and who's sabotaging our infrastructure. We have a commie ruling party, says Congo Chris. No water or electricity is a predictable outcome. Well, you know what communism is, right? It's trying to make everybody equally unhappy. That's what it is. That's what equity really is. When someone uses the word equity, say to them, "Oh, so you mean to make everyone equally miserable?" That's what it is.
It's such a bad plan of action. And what else does history need to teach us about communism? Like, haven't we learned enough?
Well, someone said to me yesterday, they want me to debate Julius about socialism. But the problem is, socialists all have this one fatal flaw. It's like an error in the source code that nobody really has ever bothered to correct. And I don't know where it comes from. It might be in the fact that socialism is so appealing to a certain kind of simplistic and basic brain. It appeals to people on some sort of level that logic doesn't. And it is this. It is that somewhere deep down inside, every commie believes they will do it right. They'll implement it right.
Oh, so the problem is not the ideology, it's who was putting it
that's what
into
they always
place.
say. They say, oh, no, well, the reason it didn't work with Castro is because Castro was not the best leader. Or they say Stalin wasn't clever enough. Yeah, like Stalin is dumber than you.
Wow.
You know, you could say a lot about Stalin, but he wasn't as stupid as most of the people who profit themselves right now as leaders. And no, it couldn't have been Noriega. Oh, not Noriega. Who was the other one? Well, there's Lenin, there's Trotsky, there's Mao. You choose, take and pick your communist leader from anywhere in the world. Ho Chi Minh.
There's tons of them.
Choose one.
Yeah.
Which one of those guys are you cleverer than? And
you'd be hard pressed to find.
Prove it to me. We'll do a little test. I'll show you some of the things they did during their term of office, and they still caused the death of hundreds of millions of people.
Hundreds of millions, yeah.
But you're going to get it right. So what it does, it appeals to some sort of reptilian ego in people that no, well, it'll all be fine. I'm just the guy who's got to do it. It's like super narcissism. Anyway,
yeah.
I don't think we must go on with this because
it is. It really is.
You want to talk about Tucker Carlson's rise as an alternative to mainstream media? People are just losing their minds about this interview. You know, before he even broadcast the interview with Putin, there were people actively, including Crooked Hillary, trying to prevent us from watching it.
Yes.
Not just that there might be, they hadn't even seen the interview themselves, and they were like, you mustn't watch this.
Yes.
Pay no attention. I'm gonna hold this up. Put my hand over your eyes.
They were calling Tucker Carlson a member of MAGA and all of this stuff. Like they called him the MAGA mouthpiece on CNN, if I'm not wrong. And it was like, wait, can we just watch the thing and see what happens? And no,
they don't want you to watch.
They don't want you to watch it at all.
No.
So, in fact,
God
big
forbid
shout out.
You should choose for yourself.
Big shout out to Elon Musk for letting these things happen on his platform. Thank you so much for that. Because I can't imagine YouTube would have been running to post this interview.
You know, if he hadn't bought X Twitter, I wonder if we'd have ever seen anything like this. I wonder if we'd ever have heard. Look, Putin is going to stand up for his point of view and for Russia.
Of course.
We knew what was going. There was always a bit of propaganda baked into the cake, right?
There always is, yeah.
He's got an angle. His angle is, let me tell you for half an hour about the history of Russia. And I watched the whole interview. And everybody's so impressed with his knowledge of Russian history. And he sat there for, 30, 35 minutes. And was relaying right through. But there are things that he conveniently left out, and there are things that he's not saying because it doesn't fit his narrative for Ukraine. But at least he put together an argument.
There you go.
And for people who've never heard any history lesson or haven't bothered to pick up a book, must have been really impressed sitting there going, wow, this Putin really knows his stuff. But frankly, I wonder if any of our leaders in this country could talk about South African history for a half an hour. I don't think they could. I don't think there's anyone in Parliament. And forgive me if I'm wrong. If there's someone in Parliament who's really well-versed in this, I will give you 40 minutes on this show to come and give us a lecture in South African history. But
there you go.
I'm pretty sure, I think I'm safe here. I'll put my money on the line. I'll say there isn't anyone in Parliament in South Africa who'd come in here without notes and tell us the story of this country from, 1300, 1400, wherever. Pick a day.
Pick a time.
Putin started with the Vikings. He started in 800 AD.
I would have thought he would have started with the Bolshevik Revolution and all of this stuff, but he went deep, like he went all the way back, which is, and I think it's also important that we do not forget that you need to hear different views from different people. Like, how is it okay for us to listen to American propaganda and not listen to Russian propaganda?
Yeah,
we can all point out that, okay, sure, he skipped over a few things, but
propaganda. We know when I mean, there've always been fake news outlets.
Of course.
People think this is something new because of the internet. There used to be whole newspapers that used to print magazines in this country that used to print stories about aliens and women who'd given birth to children with 5 heads. And,
right.
Like monsters at the bottom of lakes.
People flying with brooms.
This is people flying with brooms. This is not even that old. And
it's not.
And people know that, I think deep down inside, there always going to be a certain number of people in society who will believe everything.
Sure.
And then there are a certain number of people who will believe nothing.
Yeah.
And it's the people in between who thankfully can sift the difference between the stuff they do believe in, the stuff they don't believe in, and allow themselves to be persuaded in the light of better evidence. But honestly, someone says in the comments, and I think this is great. Azalea says the way the mainstream media was going after Tucker was actually scary. What don't they want us to know?
A lot.
That's exactly right.
A lot. I mean, Russell Brand is another good example of these mainstream media people trying to shut down alternative voices.
I hate him too. Suddenly there's this rape allegation from like 20 years ago.
And on top of what happened to that? Because
it's all gone away.
It's all
gone away. It was purely established as a tactic to dismantle Russell Brand.
Right.
And there's so many other people. This is the last refuge of a scoundrel. Is they're like, oh, this guy's getting a little uppity. He's saying things we don't like him to say, so we'll go after him in whatever crooked, made-up bullshit way we can.
Yeah.
Of course, it's going to amount to nothing.
And ultimately, as long as there are people of sound mind that are still open enough to hear both sides of the argument, I'm keeping my faith in people, not these established mainstream media outlets where every single news report is sprinkled with whatever ideology or
there's always an agenda.
That agenda. All of them have got this agenda sprinkled all over it.
You're the kind of person who, and that's one of the reasons I like having you on the shows. You go and read stuff and you figure it out for yourself. And sometimes that's a bit of an effort. Too many people in this world are in such a hurry to have a ready-made opinion out of the can. Here's an opinion. I'll just pretend this was mine, because it makes them sound like they've done their homework. But to do the homework's much harder. With Google these days, with the entire internet, all of human knowledge on these devices. And people are still too lazy to go and check on stuff. And they say, that again, lazy thinking. People go, well, you can look up anything these days, so you don't need to have a general knowledge. Nonsense. No. It's not the information itself. It's how you can understand, interpret, and regurgitate useful information.
There you go.
That makes you smart.
That
not
is
the fact that you have access to it. Everyone on planet Earth, the poorest person on planet Earth and the richest person on planet Earth, could have, theoretically, access to exactly the same amount of information.
Exactly right.
The oldest and the youngest. The person at the furthest flung corner of Antarctica can have access to information thanks to satellites beaming down all kinds of data to them.
Right.
As the people who are in the biggest city on planet Earth.
Because
give me this nonsense.
People are of the opinion that acquired knowledge is intelligent. No, it's the application of acquired knowledge.
There we go.
That is intelligence.
So when I hear people complaining about Tucker Carlson, fair enough, you might not like him. You might think he's a right-winger. You might say, oh, he's got no credibility. He was fired by Fox. I mean, Hillary Clinton went out and said, oh, he's been fired so many times. He's been fired once, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
You, honey, were fired twice.
Multiple times, yeah.
You were fired twice. You were fired as first lady.
And won't that woman just shut up?
You were fired before you even ran for president.
Oh, my God.
No one in America likes Hillary Clinton. No one.
Who does like Hillary Clinton?
Not even Bill.
Anyway.
Not even Bill.
Yeah, I mean, Bill, just keep your wife at home, bro. Like,
anyway,
can you
I mean,
please?
there's never been a less palatable candidate. I mean, to be beaten by Trump, she should be embarrassed.
Yeah.
So actually quite pipe down over there.
Like we've heard enough from you.
And that's not to say that you automatically have to love Tucker Carlson. You might think he's crazy as well, and maybe he has done some things, and he's obviously in the course of hundreds and hundreds of shows.
Yeah,
he's bound to have said things that I think are nonsense.
Of course, and he worked for Fox News, so there was agenda there too.
Large proportion of nonsense is likely to have resided in that show.
But that does not cancel out the fact that he could have a eye-opening conversation with one of the world leaders. I mean,
it wasn't so much a conversation as it was like Putin just
listen here,
waxing lyrics. I mean, did you see so Tucker, in case you haven't watched it, and maybe you don't want to because it's dreary, and I'd understand that, so you don't have to. But there are a couple of moments where like Tucker's going, yeah, but how's this relevant? And Putin goes, no. You've got a translator, right?
yeah.
No, but let me explain. Because I thought we were going to have a discussion around this, not make a show.
Yeah.
And I suddenly thought, he's kind of giving the middle finger to media as well. Because they always want the soundbite.
Yeah.
You want the short explanation so dumb people can immediately internalize it and move on.
Try put you in some random corner so you quote unquote say the wrong thing, then people run with it.
God forbid you should actually have a proper in-depth conversation that goes on for longer than 2 minutes.
Like, and it seems as if
we can't put this on TikTok. It's no use.
It seems as if you have a genuine conversation with someone without that soundbite, it seems as if it didn't happen. Like no one has the attention span to sit around and actually watch.
We were even joking the other morning. Ryan brought me this video of like Drickus saying things about the government on some interview.
Yeah.
And then there's half the screen is this car driving.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like crashing off thing, going over ramps.
Yeah.
And I said to him, what's that? Because I don't go on TikTok, right?
Yeah.
So he said to me, oh, no, they do this on video to keep your attention. So they've worked out. I mean, this is how clever the guys in China who put these algorithms together are. They've figured out how dumb people in the West are. They're like, you guys are so stupid. We'll put this video of like what looks like a video game of a car driving through the atmosphere on a see-through road or whatever. We have to put this here because you can't concentrate on this interview for long enough. So we'll put this in here and dumb you down even more.
And the video, half of the time, is not even a minute long.
But you need to have two things because and people go, oh, I can multitask. No, you
can't.
I hate to break it to you. You can't even task.
Forget the multi. Oh my goodness.
So we need to go back to books, says Hermine. I think that might be a solution. But Gareth, that's wisdom, the understanding of knowledge. Yes, that's also true. But knowledge on its own is no use. There are books and books and books full of knowledge and lots of people who never read them.
Yep.
It's wasted on those
or people that don't actually put that knowledge to work.
Congo Chris says that's a myth, Gareth. The internet is not the democratization of information. It's the proliferation of lies, especially state-sanctioned lies. That's why geolocking is a thing. Well, I know how to get information that I'm looking for about all kinds of things. I'm not talking about controversial political stuff. I'm talking about things that I'm interested in, chemistry and history, and you can find that info. And the internet has been tremendously helpful in that respect.
And I think people understand that you can't Google something and look at the first result and think that's the gospel.
Sometimes you have to go.
You have to go. You have to dig a little bit deeper.
Sure. And there are other search engines too. Let's not say that Google's the only one that you should use. Azalea says again here, Tucker and Piers Morgan, the same WhatsApp group. Also, Piers is now going to be exclusively on YouTube. He's leaving mainstream TV. I didn't know that. I
didn't know that either. Yeah,
he's been on Talk TV or something, some new media.
Piers Morgan Unscripted. It's just that I think when you work for these corporations, you have to toe the party line and. You're not allowed to speak about something. It's just it's ridiculous, and it seems as if people's thoughts have been held hostage by their financial.
I guess they're paymasters.
Yeah, they have to pay the piper. I guess
we started what we started here 10 years ago.
Yeah,
10 years ago
It's
this year.
been 10 years. It's crazy, right? That is crazy.
So I see a couple of people just staying out of the politics. Mapadima saying, good morning. Everybody.
Good morning, Ma.
Keeping it together. And then there was someone else who's new here this morning. So let's welcome somebody new. And it's always, I love the new people who are also brave enough to enter the comment section because that's a whole different world.
Yes, it is.
Amisha says, good morning, everybody. I watch every day. This is my first time live. Hey, Amisha.
Hey,
Nice to have you
Amisha.
on.
Good morning.
Very good.
Yeah.
Mapelo says, I skip those videos of the bouncing car. I find them patronizing. I skip them no matter what the content is about. Yeah.
Good for you.
It's like I also do that when I see obvious clickbait.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they'll serve you up an ad when you're on Instagram or on YouTube or on whatever platform you happen to be on. And I will skip them as quickly as I can.
Yeah.
And I hate all these games where you're like got a shooter and then he goes through this net and
oh, yeah.
4.
And then the +5. Man.
I hate these things so much. And they're everywhere now.
They are.
And I've never clicked on them, but they keep serving this shit to me. Don't they realize it's putting me off? It's not making me happy. I've never ever clicked on. I'm never going to play your stupid game.
You know, for whatever reason, sometimes the algorithm can be very stubborn. Like ridiculously stubborn.
And I have YouTube Premium, so I have an ad blocker on there.
Yeah.
So I should be seeing less than anyone else. But for some reason, I'm still getting.
It's still popping up.
Anyway, I just find it very bizarre that we aren't all talking about what nonsense gets served up to us every day on our own. We bought these devices. We paid for it with our own money.
We pay for the data.
We pay for the data. And then they still have the cheek to keep putting crap in front of our faces that we didn't ask for.
And, you know, a lot of people, I watched this really cool documentary a couple of years ago. It's called The Social Dilemma. And it actually explains that you as the, I guess, the viewer on the digital device, you are the product.
Yeah.
Like
that's it.
The point is to keep you locked on that phone long enough for their advertisers to make money. So the less you are on these devices, or at least not using them for just useless things, the better. Like, and as much as these algorithms are really intelligent and all of this shit, it's still a computer, and it's going to feed you things that it thinks will make them more money. So
it is. They're totally and
just disconnect.
Some people, but they all think that they're smarter than this. You're not. I'm not. You're not. Nobody is. We're all being used. I was online yesterday for a very long time. I had 4 online meetings. I suddenly felt like I was back in COVID.
Yeah.
So I didn't come into the office because I had these 4 online meetings. It meant my whole day was, you know, like I'd grab a cup of tea in between, and I tried to do some physical exercise so I wasn't sitting the whole time.
Yeah.
But basically I went from online meeting to online meeting, and it was weird. I haven't had a day like that in ages. So I had this whole setup at home, and I was, you know, microphone and the same setup I use for the show.
Sure.
But I was basically sitting there from 6 a.m. when we started the show with little gaps in between until 8 o'clock last night. It was chaos.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
I don't like being in front of a screen for too long.
It doesn't sound fun. It really doesn't.
The other thing that we've got to talk about this morning, this is quite interesting. South African motorists have braced for a toll fee surge effective in March. Here's how much you'll pay. So we will face a 6.25% increase in toll fees. These guys are going to be careful because we will not pay this either. I mean, this is the one where you have to go up to the toll booth, right? So apparently on the Platinum Toll Road and the N17 Toll Road, motorists can anticipate paying between 7 and 685 Rand for toll road usage.
That is such an insane jump. Like,
this won't apply to e-tolls, which are slated for removal. Sanral spokesperson Vuzimona said he's still got a job. Hey, Vuzimona.
Somehow.
He was there for. Do you remember those e-toll booths in the shopping malls we all used to laugh at?
Oh yeah.
No one ever went to them.
Yeah.
There was always some poor person sitting there going, "Hi, I'm here.
I wonder if anyone's going to see me
I felt
today."
so sorry for those people because that is the absolute epitome of meaninglessness and purposelessness.
Yeah.
We had someone on the show yesterday talking about, you know, your life's got to have a purpose. Sitting in one of those e-toll kiosks in the shopping malls.
Just twiddling your thumbs the entire day.
Unbelievable. Anyway, so they're scrapping the e-tolls. But Vusi Mona has been there for ages at Sanrail. He said that the hike aligns with inflation. Oh, okay. So because the government can't manage the economy, we have inflation. And then because the economy has inflation, we must pay more for you to do what you've always done at the same level and standard that you've always done it. Who gets squeezed?
We do.
Yeah, correct. Bend over. The fees vary by vehicle class with discounts available for frequent users. Vuzimona acknowledged economic challenges. Oh, really? That's nice of you. Yeah, that's nice. Oh, we acknowledge. Why do we even don't include that line in there? It just pisses people off.
Seriously.
Oh, if you want to make people angry, go, well, we acknowledge economic challenges. Yeah. Economic challenges.
Like whenever one of these government people say acknowledge or address,
that means
I feel like throwing something.
It means
like,
they don't care, but they're going to give it lip service.
Yeah.
That is the dictionary definition of lip service. They're going to say we acknowledge economic challenges.
Oh my God.
Which we've created.
Yeah. Like I wish, you know how they put those training collars on dogs that have like an electric shock whenever those dogs misbehave? I wish I could slap one on some of these government people, and every time they say acknowledge or we addressed, just bad word. Never say that again.
Mapello, I'm going to read this because George will like it from Autotrader, and they've been a loyal client of ours here. So any cool thing people have to say about them, I will highlight. Mapello says, I hate YouTube ads, but the only ads I don't skip are the Autotrader ads. They are very funny. So there we go, George. I hope you're listening. I got to give them credit. At least on those toll roads, the roads are in really good shape. So at least that money is being spent where it's supposed to be. Yes, absolutely. But don't now come and try and find another way to steal our money.
At this point, I even applauding them for the things that they get right is annoying because
again,
it hardly ever happens.
And we're so pleased when they do the tiniest little thing right.
See what I mean?
We're so impressed with them. And they get, it's like when your child who's out of control, who just breaks things and shits all over the room and screams,
throws tantrums and
cries and just behaves in like an animal. And then when it stops, you go, oh, that's a good boy, or that's a good no.
That's how you should have been.
It's exhausted itself.
Yeah, it's like
done all the stupid and bad things it could, and it's just run out of energy.
No, seriously. I think the analogy you gave of South Africans being in an abusive relationship is exactly that. Like, oh my God, he didn't beat me today. He's such a great husband. No, he's not. He's still the same piece of shit from last week. It's just that today, for whatever reason, he decided to behave. You do not get points for that. You don't
get points for just being competent.
Yeah, you do not.
That's the least we expect.
Oh my goodness.
But it shows you how low our standards are. Okay, so we've got a couple of things still to come, including the window seat with travel.co.za. That's going to be next. That's Judy and Wakedi, who we haven't had in the studio for a while. But Judy, I've known for many years. She used to be at the SABC, and she is the Group Chief Sustainability Officer now and Executive Director of Tourvest. We're going to chat to her in a moment or two. Also, I have to tell you about an interview for tomorrow that you're going to enjoy. I had so much fun. I don't know if he did, but I had so much fun talking to a guy called Tristan Kapp, who calls himself the Friendly Satanist online. So when I mentioned that I'm an interview Satanist, there were some people here who were like, ooh, we're not going to be in the building.
Sims did not even want to see him. Like she stayed far away from him.
I don't want to be in the same building as a Satanist. But I mean, after just a few minutes of talking to this guy, it's highly unlikely that anyone would be afraid of him.
Yeah.
Afraid is not on the agenda. What there is there's a bit of an intellectual to and fro. Yeah. I don't even want to use the word intellectual because I don't think it's the right term. But I think you'd enjoy the interview. So that is tomorrow. Don't miss it. The Friendly Satanist on cliffcentral.com. And Democracy 101. We've got a great show for you today at 7 o'clock. We're going to speak to Xavier Bapoo, who is, of course, a South African patriot, micro-entrepreneur, and a self-educated political analyst. He's going to be starting a show with Jack Motlanthe.
Yeah.
We're going to find out all about that.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. Xavier is one of those people that once he starts going, it's very hard to stop. He's a train on the tracks. And what I enjoy about his opinion is that it's informed. So he's not just randomly pulling things out of the air, thumb sucking and whatnot.
I'm excited.
When he talks, there's a lot to listen to.
Well, we're all excited about the upcoming elections, and I think South Africa has reason to be.
Yep.
And we'll get into that in Democracy 101 just after 7. But before we do that, let me welcome to the studio. I can't believe it's taken us so long to get you here, because I've been asking for you to come here for a long time. Did they tell you, Judy?
Of course not.
No, they didn't. They don't want you to know how much we like having you in the studio. Guys, where's that remote for this? Where is it?
Behind the screen.
There you go. Let me get you on the screen properly here, Judy.
Hey, no.
Nice to see you.
Let's first see if I look okay.
No, you look fantastic.
No, you look great. Yeah.
No, but I've got no makeup.
Oh,
That's
nonsense.
The best.
Please, man, you look terrific and have for years. I don't know how you look so good. So I met Judy at the SABC.
That is
That
correct.
was like 14.
When you were a child.
I was a kid, but you weren't so old yourself. I mean, you were like, you were running all the public broadcast stations.
Yeah.
So you've really had some adventures in your time, Judy.
I sure have, if these walls could talk.
So you are now the Group Chief Sustainability Officer and Executive Director at Turvest.
Correct.
And that encompasses quite a lot of different things. I mean, last year, I remember you organized a soup kitchen of all things on Mandela Day. So you're doing a lot of different things. But let's just talk a little bit about sustainability, because a lot of people don't even understand what that means. And it's an important role in many companies in South Africa and the world. So what does that responsibility involve in your particular portfolio?
I think sustainability in tourism, as well as in all sectors and facets of the economy, and industrialized economies, as well as developing economies, is really around the aspiration and the value system of a company that seeks to preserve. So I think that's the important word, is how do you preserve and protect the environment where you operate? And for tourism, of course, the iconic destinations of a country, whether it is your flora, your fauna, whether it is your mountains, your beaches, and of course, Joburg and Gauteng, the underpinning of tourism in this province is really the people and the city.
And therefore also cultural heritage.
It's
right?
big. Culture is big. And so for us, it's really about people, the planet, partnerships that leads to prosperity. How do you minimize the negative and maximize the positive? And I think for us at Turvest and for players in the tourism sector, it's really getting South Africans to understand that we have assets that the world wants to see and have a piece of. And how do we as South Africans protect those assets? So it's the harmony and the unison of community and environment.
That's so important. People might think that sustainability is some made up thing, but the way you've just described it now, it's a big picture portfolio. The idea of having to look to the future and see what you want to preserve, as you put it.
And
that's a very big deal.
The word, I mean, if you unpack the word itself around sustain, how do you sustain yourself?
Mm-hmm.
You know, how do you keep yourself going? So for us, sustainability and tourism is the one sector that gives you immediate entry into the workforce. Because let's face it, you know, I have a very simple ethos in life, and that is that if you have quality education and if you have good health care, these are the core drivers of you being able to participate in the economy. So that when you look at, you know, for many things, sustainability is clean air. We all need clean air. We need water.
Yeah.
We need energy. We need food. And so as the human or the organism needs to sustain itself, industries have to sustain itself. But the delicate balance really is around people and planet? And how do you wish to occupy that space?
But
And
what I
think-
like about your definition too is it's not just some like tree hugging, let's save all the animals and
Don't
let's
mind tree huggers.
no, sure. No, but I mean there's more to it than
Oh
that.
yes, oh yes.
And also I think for a lot of people when they hear sustainability, what they think deep down inside, because a lot of people are in survival mode. And they think sustainability just means let's not run out of. Whereas this is almost like the same reason we have museums, the same reason we have a cultural heritage and languages that are worth preserving. It all fits under the same rubric.
Yeah,
it's very important.
It's really, I think, more so now where the world is in terms of, what are the key drivers, whether it's artificial intelligence, generative AI, climate change, political leadership.
Yeah.
It's really how do you envisage this future?
We have a sustainable amount of stupid political leadership across the world. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's true.
This is so true. But over and above sustainability, it's really around your ethos as a company. How do you operate? What does business mean for you? And so I think there was many people talk about it's not good for business, it's good business.
Yeah, so don't be exploitative to the point where you run out of runway before 10 years are up because all you've done is just completely extract value from things and move on.
And so mining has often been perceived and portrayed as an extractive industry, and they have huge reputational issues.
Yeah.
But for us at Tourvest, we have a very simple philosophy that underpins our business, and that is for us to be successful, the communities where we operate and run businesses, those communities have to be successful. So it is really around the unison. And we say wherever we go, we have to ensure that those communities thrive, because if not, they will burn down your business. It's as simple as that.
When you talk about communities, there's this elephant in the room that we can't, ignore, the government. And when you think about tourism and all of that stuff, is there some sort of an alignment or a common idea between yourself and the government in terms of how you can get
just
tourism?
Forgive Jack. He hates anything to do with the government.
Yeah, I
Just
really,
out of hand.
I'm
He rejects
haven't
out
been-
of hand, but you've got to work with them.
You
right?
got to work with them. So at least at bare minimum, is there some sort of understanding as far as the idea and the ethos that you're talking about?
You see, the one thing is an idea, and the other thing is your execution of that idea. And so therein lies the devil. And South Africa has no shortage, the continent has no shortage, and the world has no shortage of governments espousing and saying the right thing. So in South Africa, when our president assumed his role, he did eloquently and deliberately say that tourism is the nascent, sorry for that stupid fancy word, industry, where we say that in a way tourism is the new gold. It is the new lithium, it is the new cobalt, depending on where you are, because it really is a driver of the economy. But where we fall short, and that is in everything we do, is how do you execute that? So for us to increase tourists into South Africa, we need seamless access. And for any of us and your listeners, Gareth and Jackie, who travel to the Middle East, when you arrive in some of the countries in the UAE, there is no human interaction from the time you exit the plane to picking up your luggage.
You're right.
You swipe, you go through. You don't have to deal with someone who's having a bad day. Of course, the computer can have a bad day.
Sure.
But so this is where our relationship with government is so key. How do you ensure seamless access into a country? When you arrive in a country, that your tourism assets deliver the best visitor experience. So I think, without a doubt, our Minister of Tourism, she absolutely gets it, Patricia de Lille.
Okay.
Gauteng's MEC for tourism, Tasneem Motara, they get it. But tourism is also one of those sectors that are codependent on many other sectors.
Yeah.
So whether it's logistics, key to tourism. The roads must be pothole free. You need to feel safe.
Yep.
Your cities, your beaches, all your tourism assets have to be clean.
Clean, yes.
And so often the fallout is not the Ministry of Tourism, it's all the other ministries that have to deliver. AXA, our airports, have to invite the tourists. It needs to be clean. The security guards have to ensure that you are safe.
I'd like to point out a thing that you mentioned now, Judy, about how in the Middle East, these countries are just unbelievably efficient at processing passengers and that kind of thing. But there's something, and I've always said this, you can go back and listen to shows I did 15 years ago. One of my favorite things about South Africa is when you come back and that person at customs who stamps your passport says, "How are you?" and they're smiling.
Yeah.
And I'd rather have that than a machine that's super efficient, frankly, when they're friendly, which is most of the time.
Yeah.
But there's a human element that we have and an ability to make people smile that I think makes South Africa pretty significant and exceptional in that respect. I don't want to say that we're the only country.
It's like now, of course, everybody's called Tin Swallow, so you should actually call me Tin Swallow, Judy.
That is true. Everybody's
when you arrive
word.
at the airport, there's nothing like hearing that South African Jabalile shouting across to someone else, "Bring me," or whatever. And so tourism is about people.
Yeah.
And that's the magic ingredient. So I want to share with you, I think one of the things we need to be absolutely clear on is that Gauteng leads when it comes to international arrivals. Gauteng leads when it comes to tourism spend. Gauteng leads when it comes to length of stay and bed nights. So Gauteng is number one in terms of arrivals.
Say that again louder for the Cape Townians.
Gauteng.
Yeah, right.
and then it's in Mpumalanga, and then it's the Western Cape. And what gives Gauteng the edge is it is a city. People visit cities often. It's about the people. It's about Inlando, Daideng. And so for us, sustainability, of course, too, really is around how do we as South Africans present ourselves to the world. And I think here we have to bring in the United Nations sustainability goals, because at the moment, that is what you build your sustainability practices and your company policies on. And for us at Tourvest, I think we like to keep things simple. We are a company, we are the only company in the world that operates in all facets of the tourism industry, whether it's accommodation, whether it's travel services, whether it's retail, whether it's shopping. So we play a very unique role in the value chain. And for me, when you unpack those 17 goals, I think education is the cornerstone of everything you do.
So can I ask you specifically, because there are so many things, I could talk to you for an hour and I wish you were here for longer, but you're on the Tourism Business Council too, and they work with the South African Tourism Board. How does that link work, and what exactly do both of them do?
So firstly, Tourvest, like many other major players and SMMEs in the tourism space, are members of the Tourism Business Council.
Okay.
And the Tourism Business Council collects levies from tourists. A portion of those levies make its way into the coffers of SA Tourism, and that's the relationship.
Okay.
And of course, for us as a company, Tourvest, SA Tourism is the arm that markets the destination globally. And so the question really is, for us, that SA Tourism needs to be effective and functioning at a level that is highly efficient, because they are the people, that is the agency that markets South Africa internationally, together with all the other provincial tourism agencies. And so it is very important, your question around government, it's very important that your institutional arrangements are such that can promote South Africa. So South Africa doesn't have a a perception problem. Everybody wants to come to South Africa. I was talking to a global leader yesterday because today we actually launched the Middle East Africa Future Leaders Challenge, which is about our young people and tourism as a career. And he was saying, a man that travels the world, works in many, many countries and many tourism agencies, that South Africa is his favorite place in the whole world. And I think all of us encountered that. So we don't have a problem wanting people to come here.
Right.
We have a problem in terms of ensuring that more people come and that we change those negative perceptions. And I always say this, including the Premier last week, that Gauteng does not need to and should not want to be any other part of South Africa. We are unique. But what we have to be able to do is, and this is where you guys, Gareth, you come in, this is your role in terms of what is the story. Because many, many countries have crime problems. Many countries have crime problems. Yet when you go to Sao Paulo, when you go to Rio, when you go to Mexico, people go there. And the backdrop, quite frankly, could be worse than our backdrop. So
it is.
It could be, it is, having been to those countries.
But then once they're here, they realize like there was a lot of ugly propaganda about this place.
So true. So we really need to take our story.
I'm so glad you're standing up for Gauteng. This is like music.
And I'm not even born here.
I know. But people always, they do talk about Mpumalanga. They do talk about the Western Cape. And I understand. And those places are great. I'm not going to take anything away from them. But it's so nice to hear someone stand up for Gauteng, because really we do get a bad rap. From
unfortunately
people.
And unnecessarily.
Yeah.
But Gareth, coming back to our approach to tourism. So, we are the province, we landlocked, but for Tourvest, we operate in Uganda. We have an amazing lodge in the middle of the Nile. And our approach to tourism in Uganda, and amazing work we've done in Uganda, is around ensuring sanitary towels for young girls in the villages around where we operate. In my last trip to Uganda, you can go and jog early mornings with young people from the neighboring village, and this is sustainability. It's really getting into the heart of the community. And there, when the young person came to meet me, I said, are we jogging? Are we running? Because at this pace, this is a little bit boring. Can we run? And so in Uganda, those are the projects we do. And we take our tourists into the community to experience ecosystems of how your agriculture in villages contribute to sustainable livelihoods. And then you move to the other side of where we operate in East Africa. So we have won many, many awards for our work in East Africa. We have lodges in the Serengeti. And there, a lot of the work is around access to clean water. And we work again with local communities. We are working towards the elimination of plastic, zero plastic wherever we go.
You've given us some very good insights here. And as I said, I wish we did have longer, but we're already at 3 minutes over here.
Oh, no.
I just wanted to thank you for coming in, and come and see us again. Because we've got to carry on this discussion.
Where I can unpack our actual project.
And I liked Judy's not so humble brag about this is jogging. I want to run.
I want to,
did you hear that?
Yes, I did.
She's like, you telling East Africans they're slow.
And
That's a hell of a
they
produce
produce all the runners.
That is some cheek. I love it though. So Judy, thank you so much. Judy is the Chief Sustainability Officer, the Group Chief Sustainability Officer and Executive Director at Tourvest. It's very good to have you here. We will see you again soon. And please keep doing the good work that you do.
It's World Radio Day today.
It is. So we can celebrate that together. Very good. Thank you, Judy. So nice to see you. Judy and Wakedi. And we will be back in just a moment or two with Democracy 101, our one-stop shop for elections.
Yes, sir.
Voter education, talking about the parties, talking about your need to understand the systems around democracy.
Yep.
All of that stuff on the way.
This week on the Autotrader podcast
is another race that's coming up.
Oh, wait a minute. This is in January.
This is in January, 5th to the 19th of January.
Oh, you're going to Saudi?
I'm going to Saudi Arabia.
No, so you're going to Dakar. Dude,
Dakar!
I did Dakar in 2018.
Yeah.
I was in South America.
South American versions.
I did
Yeah.
Peru. Very similar in the Sea of Dunes, sand, off-roading nuts.
Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
All right, it is time for Democracy 101. Jack Mutlante, Gareth Cliff, you, and this morning also Xavier Bapoo, who's with us. Xavier, I saw you in the comments section the other day. You were very loud and proud and full of controversial ideas, but then I see you on social media and you're doing the same thing. So it's nice to have you on the show for the first time.
No, thank you, Gareth. Thank you, Jack.
Just pull that mic a little closer.
Yeah,
there we go.
no stress.
Well, we'll teach you how to use the mic. You'll be a pro in no time.
Soon enough. Yeah.
Now, in fact, that is probably the best place to start this discussion. Jack and Xavier will be starting a show, and you must tell people what your show is called.
I love the name. It's the Grown Ass Group Chat. That's the name of the podcast.
I love this. I only found out about this morning.
Yeah.
The Grown Ass Group Chat.
Yeah.
Why is this?
So we are in a similar age group, and there's a couple of things that we need to tackle. So it'll be myself, Xavier, as well as Serena. Remember we went through her open letter to the president last week. So we reached out to her, we had a chat, and we found out that we've got a couple of really great ideas.
Three of you.
Us. Yes.
Okay, so when are we going to get her on?
We're going to, well, she's pretty busy these days, but we're going to do our pilot episode today.
Excellent.
And we will announce when we're going to drop that. But she's definitely going to be in the studio in the next couple of weeks, and that's going to be fun. Because let me tell you something, this man is opinionated as all hell.
Well, we'll get to all of that in a moment. I mean, Azalea says in the comments, Xavier has been silently stalking us. Congo Chris says, Democracy 101 is slowly becoming my second favorite segment of the week, second only to the Burning Platform.
I'm glad that it's something that we do here. If he had mentioned some other podcast, I would have, you know what I mean?
Been terrible.
Yeah.
I actually watched all the Democracy 101s, guys. And I got to say, you know, the information you guys have accessed. Yeah, the information you guys have accessed. It's amazing. I mean, the stuff with the IEC, that even I learned some stuff, and I studied the IEC as much as I can. I've spoken to the former guys that headed up the IEC during 1994, like Terry Tsolane. So, I try to learn as much as I can about the IEC, but you guys went...
Well, they were terrific.
Yeah.
I've got to give credit where it's due, because the IEC come in for a lot of criticism. But I honestly think that they've done a terrific job. And certainly when we had
James and
Matsoba, Matsoba,
yes,
we had them both here, and they were superb. They answered every question.
Yeah, they didn't duck and
They were
dive.
not dodging anything. They were saying what they thought. I loved having them in here. So I'm gonna say that I'm feeling pretty confident in the IEC at this point.
Same here.
But thank you, Xavier. All right, so we might have stumbled across you on social media, but how did you get into this maybe unenviable and sometimes dangerous position of saying what you think online, and now you'll be doing it in a podcast? Why did this start for you? Why weren't you just a good boy who shut up and got on with being quiet and hiding your head behind the parapet walls?
Gareth, I was the good boy.
Yeah.
And I was happy in the private sector. I had a decent job in management, middle management, and I was quite happy. And it was around November 2019. And Herman Mashaba had just said he's resigning from the DA, he's stepping down, there's racism. Big toy show there. And I was a big fan of what he did for Johannesburg. I believed he was a very good mayor. I just got this thought in 2019, I need to get into politics. And as stupid as I was, I thought the easiest way to do that was to get on Twitter. And I learned very quickly, Twitter is not a great place. So you end up throwing punches. I mean, the first groups I encountered on Twitter were the EFF guys, and they fun. But after that, I actually ended up joining Herman Mashaba.
The actual EFF guys, or their bots? Because they've got a bot army that does a lot of...
It's called the ground forces, but they online all day, every day. So it could be...
Let's just be clear about this, because, again, most of us don't participate every day on this platform, and we don't get involved and engaged in hardcore arguments. But there are actually people who are paid just to cause shit on social media.
So last year I did against my following. A lot of people actually unfollowed me because of it. I started tweeting positive stuff about the ANC. And my whole...
Must have been a long show.
So I was positive. Very positive. The ANC is capable of change. The ANC has done so much. The reason I did this was to try and get the attention of PR companies that work for the ANC and were actually paying people to tweet. These people reached out to me and they were like, we will pay you every month.
So you basically...
If you're willing to continue.
You pulled the curtain back and you saw the Wizard of Oz was this small, tiny little creature. You saw the little creature behind the veil.
No, definitely. There is...
How does it work?
So basically, they'll pay you call it a stipend every month. And then you join these WhatsApp groups and they tell you what to post about. So like when the ANC Youth League launched.
So when we see something trending that's political, you almost invariably know that it's made up bullshit.
It starts made up and then it goes viral. Where it actually organically grows. So like with the EFF launching their manifesto, they'll have a group of about 100 people, and all the parties have this. Like I was part of the DA ambassadors, social media ambassadors.
They all do it.
They all do it. They all put a lot of money behind it. And I'm not talking like 100 grand. I'm talking like 2 million rand, 3 million rand. This is the kind of stuff.
And how much do all of these little micro influencers get paid?
10 grand. So they offered me.
Really? It's not bad. That's not bad for a couple of tweets.
I'll tell you,
that's not bad at all.
I connected with some of the other people that got in.
Yeah.
And I kept in touch with them. I declined the offer. They offered me 2 grand, which I thought was okay.
They didn't value you.
Yeah.
They didn't value me. And then I get in touch with the guy, and it's now October last year. And he's like, no, they haven't paid us. I'm like, what do you mean they haven't paid you? And I was like, how much were they paying you? No, 10 grand. And I was like, the guys tried to rob me 8 grand. I was so upset.
So this is the danger. If you're paying people to support you, the really scary thing is if you stop paying them, they will turn on you.
Yeah.
Because there's no loyalty there. You've bought their loyalty, and as soon as you stop paying, they stop caring. So they will turn on you and then it'll reveal how crooked the whole system is.
Yeah.
But there's also this thing that happens on the internet where sometimes something gets a life of its own. I mean, during the State of the Nation, for example, again, I wasn't on Twitter, but I was getting screenshots from people and all the rest. There was no love. Cyril could have had his army of bots out there being paid 10,000 Rand a tweet. But it seems to me like the whole country was saying...
He did have his bots out there.
But didn't help him.
It didn't.
The hashtag Tenswalo, based on that fictional story, came up. And you had ANC Youth League members and everyone.
Now, you know those people who used that word on Thursday last week were all being paid.
Correct.
So it's fake. It's just nonsense. I don't understand why anyone. So who pays attention to this? Is it corporations that look at trending things and go, oh, well, this is obviously a groundswell of support for Cyril Ramaphosa.
So
is that what they think?
It's interesting you say
that. Is that what they think?
Yeah, there's a lot of political research companies, NPOs, people that watch the elections, and they get a lot of money from sponsors and foreign national companies to monitor things. And they'll write these like the Ipsos, the Ipsos report. Now, a lot of people read only what they wanted in that report. They didn't read to the conclusion. If you went to the Ipsos site, it went to the report, the basic summary, but then you had to download the actual report at the bottom of that page. And nobody did that. Like I did it, but not a lot of people did.
Not too many people did it, yeah.
And in that report, they give you exactly why they thought that and why it's not accurate yet.
So what you're telling me is fascinating because we've been led to believe that social media is this excellent barometer for what's happening in the country. Meanwhile, according to just what you told me this morning, and I have no reason to doubt that what you're saying is true because frankly, we can tell that a lot of people are paid for opinions.
Yeah.
And they don't even have those opinions themselves. They're paid to proffer an opinion. And if they're not even a real person, it could be a bot. But the fact is, this is not a good indication of what's happening in South Africa. These are paid influencers, and paid influencers are the least credible people on earth.
Correct.
Yeah.
Let's just all stop worrying about what's going on social media because it's fake.
You can say that.
There are people who are going to be honest and will say, like you, like Jack. And I mean, you guys are not being paid for your opinion.
Not at all.
Make it clear,
Every time you put something on Twitter, no one's giving you money. Right?
I wish.
In fact, with some of the things that I say on Twitter, I'm not surprised that no one's willing to pay me for the things I say on Twitter. You know what I mean?
So
I'm not surprised at all.
So lovely for you. You get the shine of being an actual influencer.
Yeah, of being an actual human being, but with serious thoughts.
The people who are being paid, let's all just forget that means anything.
So Gareth, I'll give you another perspective of this. So there are people that do it and are not paid at all. So like, for example, when I joined the Herman Mashaba initiative, which initially it was called the People's Dialogue. This is way before Action SA.
I remember that. I think that's when I first
There were
saw
9 people. Yeah, there were 9 people around the table, and I promoted Action. Well, at that time, People's Dialogue heavily. The entire idea was to try and get people to give their ideas, solutions to a better South Africa. And at that point, Herman Mashaba said he'll create a report and he'll read through everything, and then he'll decide whether to open a party or not. Because the calls for him to open a party started the day he put his resignation in at the DA. On that point, we would get WhatsApps every morning. All 9 of us, it grew. So the idea was if you could create a branch, Herman Mashaba would personally come visit the branch, which would be in your house or your lounge or someone's lounge. And then you would have one-on-ones with Herman Mashaba, which was a big thing. And we were promoting this thing to try and get our branches growing. So I did it as well. No payment, no support, no... Are
you still involved with them at all?
No. I'm not involved in Action SA. We had a falling out very early before Action SA started over the Lily Mine debacle. So I told Herman Mashaba, I'm not comfortable with you politicizing the issue because there's no way you can solve it. And 4 years later, he hasn't solved it. He's done a lot, but he hasn't solved it, which I told him would happen. So yeah, and then you look at the DA. When I joined the DA, I joined the...
was this after or before Herman?
Yeah, so that was after Herman Mashaba. So after I left Action SA, I then went in, did an entire research paper on every party in South Africa at that point in 2020. and I studied each party's constitution, the manifestos, etc., who's in charge, who's the sponsors, etc.
And let's be clear, I don't think there's any person in South Africa who's going to find one party that ticks all their boxes.
It's
right. I mean,
highly
Jack,
unlikely.
I don't know if
And
you've,
I mean, like,
have you looked at any of these manifestos? Because I've given them a cursory glance at best.
well, so I'm helping Bafana Mudise put together Manifesto Unpacked for
Right.
Podcast Party.
Right.
So unfortunately, now it has become my job to actually go through these manifestos. I'm not happy about it, but I'll do it
You
nonetheless.
have my sympathies.
Thank you.
So-
But and I actually, now that you bring up manifestos, there's it blows my mind just how similar a lot of these parties are, just from the standpoint of this is what we're bringing to the table. And a lot of them have these grandiose ideas about how we're going to change the country and all of this stuff. From the studying that you did, naturally, since 2019, you said you did the study in 2020.
2020, yeah.
Right? It's been 4 years since then. Right now, as it stands, there are about 300 and how many? 59.
361.
61.
Because, well, there's a chance that Mogoeng, our former Chief Justice, who says he's ordained by God,
Yes, remember that.
president. I used to love the guy. I had great respect for him intellectually. And
Right.
now I don't know what to say. But he might launch a party or he might run independent, but you can't run for presidency as independent.
Independent, yeah.
So I think he'll launch a party. Then Jacob Zuma's son, Duduzane,
Duduzane, yeah.
has launched the All Game Changers, which sounds like a NBA.
It does,
It
right?
sounds like a TV game show.
Yeah, it does.
It doesn't sound like a political party, but
Like,
he's launched that.
The moment you said all game changes, the thing that was missing was dun, da, 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 da.
You know, you expect them coming out.
We'll,
like
we'll-
a-
we'll get
come on.
to the Zumas in a minute because they are still the guys at the center of the political discussion. Who would have guessed
Can you
Yeah,
imagine? Yeah.
no.
10 years later or whatever?
It's
Mm.
interesting, but first, let me explain the difference between a manifesto
Right.
and the constitution of a party.
Mm.
So the constitution of a party pretty much defines the party. You cannot register with the IEC without bringing your constitution to the IEC. They require that.
And what has to be in there?
So your structure of your party, how you do your branches, how you elect your leadership, your values in the party. So for example, you guys had UIM's leader here, Neil de Beer.
Mm.
One of the tenets, like the core values of the UIM, is called temperance, which means you avoid extremes in any regard.
But that he
You do
doesn't,
not
he doesn't live
speak
by that.
Yeah.
And this is the leader of the party. That is the constitution of the party. If you go on UIM's website, you go to the constitution and you check it. There's a value there called temperance in their core values.
Mm.
This is how they've put forward to the IEC that their party is built. This
Yeah.
is the heart and soul of the party. So the constitution of a party can change. The ANC has changed it many times over the years. But the Freedom Charter, which was in the first constitution of the ANC, is still there. In the ANC Charter, in the ANC Constitution, it's very strict on, acts of corruption, acts of dishonor. It's shocking. It's shocking, guys.
So
It's not
So-
strict enough.
The manifestos are basically a promise. They're nothing more than that. And that's why I tell people, don't worry about the manifestos, because in order to implement a manifesto, you need a majority government, not a coalition government.
Hmm.
You need a majority where you can
So
put...
this is where the party says,
Yeah.
if we were in charge, this is what we would
Correct.
do.
Now, in a coalition, you're going to have to reduce some of those promises because
Yeah.
you now need to include someone else's manifesto.
Yeah.
And this is the compromise you have
It's
to
still
make.
good to know what they would do in a situation where they did have absolute power.
It's no good if you know the party is not going to get that power. So, for example, the EDA, very strong opposition in South Africa, they've grown. But you can see the leadership now understands they will never get to 51%. And it's said that they've resigned themselves to that. And that's why I left the DA, because I believe they could get to 51%. They just needed to make proper changes. They refused. And, if they resigned to the fact that they're happy to be an opposition or a coalition partner, it means that someone else might come in and say, listen, we can actually get 51%. And right now, I don't think he will.
So have you got a favorite party at the moment?
For now, the one I'm actually impressed with is Bold One SA, which I thought, it's going to
Musi
be...
Maimane.
I really thought it was going to revolve around Musi Maimane because he's such a big personality. But he's actually got a lot of women in leadership who are thought-provoking.
I love Ayanda.
Ayanda Ali.
Ayanda Ali is amazing.
She actually stood up and made a comment on the Sona.
I know it's gone viral.
She's gone
It's
viral.
made her celebrity for the week.
But
Yeah.
she used to work in the ANC.
Mm-hmm.
So
She was Fikile Mbulula's spokesperson.
Spokesperson, yeah.
When he was,
That's got to be so shitty for him to see her trending because
exactly.
he thinks he's the celebrity. You know?
And the thing is, he has not said anything of any level of intelligence in the past 6 or 7 months. So it's like
worse.
6 or 7
it's
months.
bad.
I think
Like,
it's 2 or 3
I'm being
years.
kind here. I'm being
6 or
kind.
7 months to try 6 or 7 decades.
Did you forget when he said you need to jump in a taxi to sit down to jump in a taxi?
It's madness.
So, all right, all of this is very, very interesting. I just want to go to a couple of comments on the stuff you've already said, because some of this is new information.
Yeah.
The ANC have 5 days to release their CADA deployment documents, apparently, according to Congo Chris. These paid online mouthpieces should be included in that. I think it would be good to know. You know, like if someone's sponsored, that something is a sponsored tweet, it comes up like, you know, this is a sponsored show or whatever, then we tell you someone's paying for this.
Yes.
And we do on cliffcentral.com, we tell you when someone is paying for some
something.
piece of content,
Correct.
some
Right.
editorial they've sponsored. I think it should be the same on social media. If someone's being paid to do something, we should know.
The problem with it, Gareth,
This moron is being paid by the
Yeah.
ANC.
the problem with it, Gareth,
Mhm.
is that inside a party, so like the DA will have its social media management team.
Yeah, we need to know who those people are.
No, they find that's legit. You know, they are ambassadors, and sometimes they'll announce themselves as DA ambassadors. When I was part of
But they should always, is my point.
I agree with you. But then you also
Like
get
party funding should be fully disclosed.
Fully.
Anything to do
I've
with
got-
politics and money, we must know who is paying.
I've got so much to say on that, but let's
All right.
leave that for now.
Go on.
But anyway, so with the influencers, these parties also, besides their own social media teams, they also hire PR companies. Now, PR companies in South Africa have a variety of techniques they can use. Some decide to go and buy articles in publications that will allow them. So like you'll always see Herman Mashaba's stuff in City Press.
And he paid for that.
Correct. And he paid for
Prince
12
Mashele,
million
right?
rand.
Yeah. For his biography.
And that guy was a respected political analyst. Now you can't trust anything he says.
It was
anymore.
Prince Mashele.
Yeah, it was.
Shame. No one will talk to him anymore.
Yeah,
How much
because
did he
it
get
makes
again?
sense.
It was like
12
6
million.
Oh, 12 million.
12
There you
million
go.
is what I heard.
Yeah.
Which is
Propaganda
ridiculous.
is expensive business.
Expensive business.
So you've got a whole lot of PR companies which you never hear about that do reputational management. They do political strategy. So the biggest and best PR companies have a separate wing besides their corporate stuff, specifically for political stuff. So these guys have highly trained, best of the fits team, political analysts there deciding how a party should direction
Yeah,
themselves.
well, so if you ask me, that's a waste of money.
It is.
Because
It
none
is.
of these people have been able to
It's
hit the mark.
terrible.
yeah. Nothing.
Not one of the opposition parties are killing it in PR.
Yeah.
Not the ANC is killing it in
And
PR.
it's
So basically,
crazy.
and let me just say this right now, loud and clear, because I know that political leaders listen to this show.
Yeah.
I know that many of them are coming on this show.
There's some that love you.
Let me tell you guys, you are wasting your money with these dumb,
100%.
unbelievably ineffective
Yeah.
PR and spin agencies who are doing you no favors at all. And you're also wasting your time with influencers on social media who've never had opinions before, and you have to pay them to come up with something. This is stupid. If it's not going to be real people who really believe those things,
Yeah.
don't waste your time.
And in fact, it's pretty telling that there aren't people who would do these things on their own volition. Like having to pay people to parrot certain things that are great about you.
What
but
does it
it's
make
like,
the party look like? It makes it look like if you
You're
didn't
just
pay, no
sad.
one would care.
yeah, you're
So-
just this sad little dude who's
Wah.
asking people,
Let me put it to
hey,
you
please
guys
say
like this.
something nice about me. I'll give
Yeah.
you $5. Come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, please say something nice about
Say
me.
something nice.
Right.
Let me put it
Look
to
at what
you.
you've done, Xavier. You've ruined their whole model.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I shouldn't have done that. I'm going to get assassinated walking down Ravonia.
I'll walk right
But
next to you. Bro.
Anyway, the thing is, guys, if you look at Twitter, for example, it's the biggest platform in South Africa. There's no other platform other than Facebook.
But it's still small.
It's
If
4
you
million,
consider that-
4 million to
Yeah,
5 million.
4 or
South
5
African.
million people out of 60, 70 million.
Yeah.
Which, when you compare to the groups in SA, for example, the ZCC Church,
Mhm.
the ZCC Church is somewhere around 8 million.
Mm.
8 million congregants, and they are strictly loyal to the ANC. Then you got the Church of Shembe. Church of Shembe, they don't do social media and things. So I think it was Ramaphosa that went recently to one of the churches. I can't remember if it's the Shembe Church or if it's ZCC. But it was one of the AIC, which is the African Initiated Churches. It's a group of African churches. You'll often see the guys going out into the parks and things.
Yeah.
So they part of those churches. They're Christians, but they practice in a different way.
Yeah.
And those churches are huge. He went out to one of these churches and said, we will build you 1,000 sleeper hostel for your congregants from the ANC money, which we know. I mean, you guys said it, the Iran influence. Suddenly they've got money. Now they're going to build 1,000 sleeper. 1,000 sleeper for a church is a massive thing because it means when you hold events, you have that facility.
Yeah.
So that grows your church exponentially. So, I mean, if you ask now, the ZCC pastor, if he goes out there on voting day and he says the week before voting day, guys, we are collectively as a church in God's trust, we're going to vote for ANC. How do you defeat that with social media?
You can't.
Yeah,
you can't. That's
Yeah.
8 million people.
Yeah.
Then you look at the taxi associations. It's 100,000 drivers. Are they going to vote for the DA who impounded taxis?
Wait, 100,000 drivers where?
Well, 100,000 members. It's 200,000 drivers, I believe, or 300,000 drivers.
Jesus, a lot of drivers.
There's
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of
So
drivers.
that's just the Santaco's registered association.
Yeah.
They got 100,000 members, 200,000 taxis, and I can't remember exactly how many drivers.
Okay,
It's
well,
a lot.
those are
But
big
it's a
numbers.
large
Yeah.
number.
So,
It
yeah.
sounds like you're making them up, but I believe you.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you go ahead and you check all these, like COSATU, we know they're part of the tripartite alliance. They will never not support the ANC, but recently it looks like it might be divided.
What about this? This is something brand new. Carl says that a new poll has predicted MK will get as much as 24% at KZN.
So
Bring us back to the Zumas.
I actually wanted to go to the rally that he held in Alex, but Uber was charging 190 Rand to get to the location where the Alex Stadium where it was because of the number of people going there.
Yeah.
And when I saw the crowds, it was ridiculous. So like an Indian guy sitting in that crowd, it's not so kosher.
They would have just said my friend and it would have been done.
No, they might have thought I'm a Gupta or something. And I've been accused of being a Gupta before. So yeah, he is across the country. Bear in mind, guys, MK just launched a little more than a month ago.
Yeah.
And they are gaining more traction in KZN than Julius Malema.
But just like on social media, where people are paid to say what they have to say, we know that rallies are not a great indicator of actual support on the ground. Pumi's often said this on the Burning Platform, because people are paid to be at rallies. They're given lunch, or they're given a shirt, or they're given a whatever. Yeah. So I mean, it's sickening, but this is the level of our politics in this country.
Yeah. So you bust in for a rally, even with this Jacob Zuma rally, he bust people in. But I don't know if it hit the newspapers, but I know for a fact people were left there till 9 p.m.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to get a taxi out of there because the transport was not paid by Jacob Zuma. They didn't pay the taxi drivers to get people out.
All right, there are two stories here. First of all, the media would have ignored that and pretended it didn't even happen because the media isn't interested in MK.
Well, it's not about...
The mainstream media have declared themselves in direct opposition to Jacob Zuma. He's the bad guy. He's been the villain of our story for the last 10 years.
At least.
But essentially...
And we still have... there's this little girl on TikTok. She calls Cyril Ramaphosa Uncle Posey. So I'm going to call him that from now on. So even Posey mentioned state capture in his sauna last week, which was like, my guy, you were the deputy president. You oversaw a lot of this shit anyway. But yeah, you were saying, sorry.
The whole appeal, and I've spoken to people, I've spoken to Uber drivers. Every Uber driver I use, I have a political discussion with.
Yeah.
And some of these guys are not South African. But the major pull, and I understand it because my life changed dramatically during the Zuma years. Of course, I was working at Louis Vuitton at that time. So obviously,
really?
Obviously, my life was good.
Yeah.
So a lot of people feel their life was much better under Jacob Zuma than it was under Ramaphosa, and they're willing to overlook the state capture for that. In their minds, they feel, yes, he stole, but our lives were better. We had jobs.
There's
We
no
were able-
disputing that, though.
Yeah. And it's hard to, if you compare Jacob Zuma's tenure to Cyril Ramaphosa as we stand now 5 years into his tenure, it's less like day and night.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the major pull for MK.
So one of the things I wanted to ask you, and Jack and I have spoken about this before on the show, but is voting enough? What are the other things you could get involved in as a concerned active citizen? Because I'm also like, I've had enough. There are going to be some people who will never register and will never vote, right?
Yeah.
They just don't care. But there are those of us who are doing that, and we realize that that's not enough every 5 years. We've got to do more than that. How do you get involved in things? Must you start an NGO? Must you go to stupid meetings? Like, how can you actually make a difference? Because I've been to some of these meetings.
The branch meetings.
Well, no. I mean, I'm talking at municipal level where you actually go to the municipality's meeting and you say something. Yo, it's a disaster. You're asking for trouble.
Okay, before I answer your question, basically at this moment, the registered voters in South Africa are 27,537,000. So it's massive. This is the biggest election we've ever had. If we have a turnout of 80%, it's the most votes we've ever counted in South Africa.
Yeah.
So can your vote actually count? Yes, 100%. Because now, as it stands, it is so hard to get 51%. You need over 13 million votes. And no party has done that in the history of South Africa.
Yeah.
No party has gotten that. So guaranteed the ANC is going to go down, whether they like it or not, whether they've got the support or not, just based on the amount of registered voters. So just based on that, they're definitely going to drop.
Which
100%.
makes it very interesting that Uncle Posey hasn't told us when we're going to vote, because like it works against their interests. But anyway.
Yeah, look, they also want as many South Africans to register as possible. The IEC has said there is possibly around 30 million eligible voters to 32 million. And right now we're sitting on 27 million. So there are 5 million South Africans that can still register effectively. And if you looked, I think I sent you the
you
data.
sent me the data, yeah.
The 18 to 19-year-olds are the smallest group of registered voters. And women are beating men.
Men, yes, definitely.
They're sitting on 55% of that 27 million. So, in terms of active citizenry, women are very quiet about politics. You don't hear them talk often about politics, but they're the most active voters. In terms of being an active voter and doing more than just voting, my suggestion would be, and I know it's hard, you need to join a party. So party membership is not something that is easy to find out. For example, the ANC has around 600,000 members. It's dropped. They used to have a lot more in the 90s. It's dropped significantly over the last 10 years. And then the EFF are claiming they've got 1 million members. What these members do is they are able not to just hang posters, not to just go attend rallies. They build branches, and branches are able to pretty much bring the message through to the communities that they're in, as well as bring the message of the party and do action in that community. So even if they're not elected, a branch for the EFF in Alex, it's not their ward, they can decide, listen, we're going to do a cleanup initiative. And that is active citizenry. So you can do this by yourself. There's a lot of groups in South Africa that do cleanup, they do charity, they do all these things. But if you want to be an active voter, join a party, become a member, get involved with the branch. You can even start your own branch if there's no branch around you. Most of the parties will allow that. And then get more involved in the party.
Are you also irritated, Jack, with people who say, oh, no, well, I can't find a party that perfectly fits me? It's like you're looking for a wife or something. I mean, it's just, there's no such thing as perfection here.
Even in your pursuit of a wife, you're not going to find someone who fits you perfectly.
Yeah. Perfect is the enemy of
progress,
right? Yeah. So you've got to just get out there and join. Now, you say join a party, but honestly, which one? I mean, you're talking about the manifestos now. You're talking about the constitutions of the different parties. What are you looking for in a match? If you're going to put time and effort into a party, you better have like at least a 50-60% match.
So, Gareth, that is so true what you're saying. Basically, you got to look at South Africa. Now, I haven't spoken to a South African who doesn't know the problems that the country is facing, as well as the solutions. From an Uber driver to a CEO, pretty much everyone knows we need to get jobs. We need to get the economy rolling. We need to get these things done. If you look at what the party is offering, I'm not going to use any names, but let's say a party is offering to nationalize the Reserve Bank. How would that affect the economy? Most people don't understand the relationship of the Reserve Bank, inflation, our currency, how that is all protected by the Reserve Bank. You nationalize that, you end up with Zimbabwe. Tablespoons full of cash that are worth nothing. So everyone's a billionaire. So obviously, anyone that supports nationalizing the banks or nationalizing the mines, that is not a good party to go to if you're looking for progress. Any party that's looking to increase welfare. So the EFF have said they'll pay students 2,500 rand. That's not going to help you if you can't get a job. 2,500 rand is not enough for rent in South Africa. So obviously, increasing welfare is a terrible idea. You should look to decrease welfare, increase jobs. So you need sound economic, and you yourself need sound economic.
But are there any
knowledge.
parties who are actually saying they want to decrease welfare?
There's not one that has
Because that's
specifically-
a very
Yeah.
bad political message to
It
sell.
is.
That there's so many people in this country, 16 to 20 million. We're not even sure the exact
It's
amount.
17 million on welfare right
who
now.
are getting the 350.
No, that's 9
rand
million.
grant. 9
That's
million.
9 million. Comes to about 3 billion rand a month that we are paying. Now, if you had to think about 3 billion rand, I could start a chain of supermarkets in South Africa for 3 billion rand a month. And I could run that and provide jobs for everyone. You know, you could actually compete with Pick and Pay with 3.1 billion rand a month.
Yeah.
I could do so many companies for that amount of money instead of giving people 350 rand. I mean, bakeries. Everyone needs bread.
Yeah.
Everyone needs goods. The amount of spaza shops in this country contribute to our GDP in a massive way.
Hey.
Nationalize the
Chris-
spaza shops.
So Congo Chris says Gayton said he wants to remove the child grant.
Oh, yes, he did.
Gayton is one he's been quite aggressive in his policies and changing South Africa, in my opinion.
Very aggressive.
In my opinion, the man has his mind in the right place. His words are not in the right place.
Carl says, what pisses me off is there's only one party who's demonstrated that they can govern.
That's
Like
correct.
manifestos. Remove your heads from your asses. It's infuriating, says Carl.
So,
What's that only party?
DA.
No.
In the Western Cape. They've
you've
run
gotta
other
look-
wards.
You've got to look at the realistic, and I criticize the DA heavily. If you watch my
Everybody
tweets,
does. It's a national
Yeah.
sport.
So,
It's like
you know,
laughing at the president.
I still believe, guys, if every South African decides, let's just do this based on what is effective. Let us go ahead, give the DA 51% of the vote. Regardless of John Steenhuisen being president, we'll remove him later. It's fine. Let us give them 51% of the vote. It's not about Steenhuisen. Steenhuisen will be the
It's
president.
not like Steenhuisen's the most dangerous man ever either.
Yeah, but
I mean, really, there are far worse people who
They
are
are.
promising far worse things.
Yeah.
I mean, you could say what you want. John Steenhuisen might not be your favorite. I've said that he's too fat, for example.
Yeah.
But we can say many things about John Steenhuisen, but he's not dangerous to our democracy.
But what a lot of people.
sorry to interrupt, but I mean, like,
So
it's
when people say, I would vote for the DA, but for that John Steenhuisen. I'm like,
yeah.
What are you looking for?
And I think we've been somewhat conditioned in this country to look at political parties as the individual that is in front
Yes,
of
personality
everyone. It's like
politics.
it's personality. Yeah. Instead of looking at the ideas
I don't actually care about whether they're nice people
or
whether
not.
they dress well,
Yep.
whether they speak nicely,
Yep.
whether they have fun social lives. I don't care about any of that stuff. What I care about
Can
is
you
that they-
get shit done?
right.
Correct.
We have come to a point in this country, and I think I said this last week on the
Mm-hmm.
show. I'm just over talking. I want action.
Yeah.
And by action, I mean fix potholes, fix electricity, fix water, pick up the rubbish, tidy the country up,
Mm-hmm.
and stop talking shit.
That's it.
That's 100%, Gareth. That's what
Fix
we
it.
need. That we need to fix the country
want
before we can decide on
technocrats.
beautiful stuff.
I want technocrats. I want someone who can come in and make it happen.
Yeah.
And I don't want to know your name. In fact, I will know you're succeeding when I can't mention who the mayor of X place
That's
is.
the
'cause
best.
it's
Yeah,
running
yeah.
so beautiful.
That's the
Mhm.
best.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I like what you said, Jack, because a lot of people base their political decision on, Helen Zell is the leader of the DA.
Yeah.
I don't like Helen Zell's ideas, but
Yeah.
you override over 1,000 councillors. So, for example, the ANC has the most municipalities in South Africa.
Mm.
They have 8,000 seats in all of the municipal, councils.
Right.
So they're the biggest party. They run most of the country, if not 90%. If they are not running it well, then obviously don't vote for the ANC.
Oh, yeah.
It's not about
how can you
Ramaphosa is
say
a bad
if?
guy.
What do you say if? What is if?
No, it's okay. Yeah, true.
They are
But
not running it well.
if you say the DA is bad because of John Steenhuisen or Highlands,
Oh, come on. What about Roger Jardine, guys?
okay, Roger
about-
Jardine is quite interesting. I've got an invite to go for the party launch. I've been connecting with them. He's got a lot of money behind the party,
Right.
right? And money is good because it can accomplish things. But you need people on the ground, and that's what I'm saying about the members and the branches.
Who is their constituency?
That is the
is-
Like
problem.
big business have like 3 votes between them.
So it's funny you say that. The biggest employers in South Africa basically account for maybe 1 million, 2 million votes. So if all of them got together and collectively said, let's vote for the DA,
But
it
also,
wouldn't make a
it'd make a
difference.
difference, yeah.
if your CEO of your company says you must vote for this, who's going to listen?
well,
And especially if they're telling you to vote for some guy no one in South Africa knows,
Yeah.
Discovery's employees will listen.
will they?
Yeah, they listen to everything.
They
Say jump in and they jump.
it's all just what?
Yeah.
It's like-
Mindless bots just
No, I wouldn't
following
say
one
mindless.
another.
Really, it's like a Lenny Riefenstahl movie over there. Is that what you're saying?
Discovery is like a cult. If you're in that group, you live in it. Have you been in their office? It's like a
Yeah, I
different
have.
South Africa.
Mm.
It doesn't feel like South Africa. The culture, there's no racism. It's like a beautiful, and then you step out and everyone's back to normal.
So you actually think it's a good thing?
That people have this culture inside the corporates and they don't speak about politics and they don't.
You like that?
I like it because it insulates, and that's why the private sector is so effective. They are apolitical for most of the part. They're apolitical, and they don't get involved. So like Bidvest, massive company in South Africa, has holdings in everything, even deals with the government.
Mm.
Glencore. government.
Patrick says in the comments, I can never vote DA. Sorry, too long here for explanations. Anyway, they'll never get 50%. That's why I like this moonshot stuff, as I can vote for the party I want.
So the
the
moonshot-
multi-party coalition, what do we
Yeah.
think of that?
Yeah, so the MPC coalition is amazing because Helen Zell for years has said voting for a small party is useless. Don't vote for small parties.
Yeah.
They're never going to accomplish anything. Then she goes out and her and the federal come up with the idea of the multi-party charter. Now you don't need to vote DA to support DA. You can vote anyone because they're all part of this magical coalition that will definitely stay together after they win the elections. And Neil de Beer is not going to disagree with John Steenhuisen on anything.
Mhm.
And Kenneth Mashur,
Meshwe.
Yeah.
he will never disagree with Helen Zell on the fact that we can legalize sex work. Yeah, it's a beautiful coalition. They're all going to
So-
have the same minds.
TL says, I must say this guy, that's you now, Xavier, is sharp and sober-minded. At least you're not drunk-minded. He speaks politics and economics in simple terms. I would have thought he would have fit right in with Action SA. Well, he was in Action
As
SA.
it
I
once
was.
upon a time,
One
yeah.
of the founder members, in fact.
I will say to you guys publicly, I do regret leaving there. I told Herman Mashaba he's got a spaza shop party. I do regret that.
Okay.
I was very wrong.
That takes a big man to
So
admit
I
that.
was
he's
very
not going to
wrong.
have you back in.
Yeah. he's not.
Obviously, I think my words were quite harsh to Michael Beaumont, Andre Coutier, and Herman Mashaba. I've burnt my bridges there. I'm man enough to admit that
So
action.
I
is
hope
there.
they're
Sure.
listening.
Yeah.
So they can hear
But
that
honestly,
you've grown.
you know,
Mm.
for me personally, I would not want to be part of a party that I can't do anything inside of.
Mm.
I need to be active. So for when I joined the DA,
You've
I
done an Ace Magashule there. You know, that's going to welcome you back.
funny thing you're saying about Ace Magashule, because he's got a hard rock right now. He needs to choose between 3 parties because his party ACT has not really taken off. And
Yeah, but isn't he throwing in his lot with the MK party?
he hasn't officially.
Hasn't he?
Yeah, so it's this is the first time that the ANC splinter. So we've had ANC splinters before. The oldest ANC splinter.
That's Cope, yeah.
No, it's PAC.
Oh, no, no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the very first.
Very
and,
first,
then,
yeah, yeah.
and then UDM.
yeah.
Mm.
UDM
After
was
the
the next one
94.
because Bantu Holomisa said that they're a bunch of corrupt fools. I think he should have stayed in ANC because there's a lot of good people, and I'll get flack for this. There's a lot of good people inside the ANC still.
They must be hidden in
And
some
I'm not
dungeon.
talking about Praveen Gordon. genuinely don't think he's one of the good guys. But I speak to a lot of people inside the ANC, and there are a lot of good guys.
Hang on. I got to get this right, because I'll quote you afterwards. Did you say Praveen is a good guy?
I didn't say that.
Oh, thank you.
I would
Jesus.
I'm not going to say what I think
about
Praveen.
I was going to chase you out of the
I'm not going to say what I think
it
about
would have
Praveen.
ended
But
right then and there. It's
the
like,
evidence before us on what he's done with SAA,
Crooked.
just SAA,
Crooked.
because state capture is over when he took over.
So they say.
Right? So what is exactly going on at SAA that we sold it for $50?
Mm.
Because I would have taken $50 and bought SAA.
Yeah.
And I'm sure pretty much every one of the 60 million South Africans would have done the same. But anyway, there are some good people in the ANC. I wouldn't write off the ANC, because the reality is everyone's saying they're going to get 40%. Yeah. But that puts them solidly on the opposition benches. It doesn't write them out of our country.
Yes.
Which a lot of people think will be accomplished if we remove them and they drop by 40%. No, as an opposition party in South Africa, you still have a lot of power to dismantle or prevent or, impact any change on the country.
You know what's crazy? I had the same thought 10 years ago. Like when I came to join Cliff Central, Damon Calvaris was doing the auditions, and he asked me, he was like, look, man, it's an election year. What are you going to do? I'm like, look, I think it would be great to see the ANC as an opposition party, because as a governing party, they are not that great. So
wasn't your uncle in charge at that exact time?
Yes, he was. But he, at that exact time,
that must have been an awkward family dinner when the word got out.
I mean, at the end of the day, I'm allowed to have my own thoughts and opinions. In fact, I got a pat on the back for saying that.
Oh,
wow.
Because consider how radical my uncle was when he was my age. You get what I mean? He served what, 12, 13 years on Robben Island? You don't do that if you do not have some sort of idea, or at least a thought that you can stand behind, right?
For the sake of clarity, we're talking about
Kgalema
Motlanthe.
Yes, he does happen to be my uncle.
He's a former president of the country.
Yeah.
One of the shortest ones.
After Gedlehlegis had unseated Thabo Mbeki for a little bit, there was that period where we had an interregnum and we were ruled over by a wise elder for a short while.
And I'm actually glad that he's kind of done the moonwalk into the background. He hasn't said anything too much. Yeah. I haven't had to defend my surname in a long time. I'm happy.
It's kind of interesting to see Mbeki doesn't want to campaign either.
No, he won't do it.
He said he won't do it. And I thought initially it was because of his age, but he's got so many ideological differences with the current regime. You know, guys, I was looking at because Nelson Mandela was released on the 11th of February, and that was this weekend, and I'm a Nelson Mandela fan, even though I don't support the ANC.
God bless you.
Very few of those left. So few people of a certain age, let's just put it this way, who will even say that
Madiba is my hero.
Or that the 90s were a good thing. They're like, sell out. Revisionist historians, left, right, and center.
It's funny, I had this conversation with Nati Mtetwa when he was before the flag incident. And Nati and I love Nati, regardless of what has happened. I love Nati Mtetwa. And we've had good conversations on Madiba and what he means and how we should revive that legacy. And then to see his stuff being auctioned was heartbreaking for me. But going back to the 1990 speech that he gave outside of the City Hall in Cape Town,
right?
You see Cyril Ramaphosa standing next to him,
and holding the mic.
Yeah, he's holding the mic the entire time that Madiba's speaking. It's not a long speech. It's not one of Madiba's longest speeches. After Madiba finishes, they're busy trying to tell the crowd, massive crowd at that time in 1990, listen, you need to calm down, etc. We need to leave here without leaving any damage. Cyril Ramaphosa takes the mic and he starts speaking. This is 1990, before he ever had presidential
with ambitions. A full head of hair, behind you.
Yeah. He looked good. So he takes the mic and he starts speaking. Nobody gives a damn. In 1990, nobody gave a damn.
Yeah.
In a crowd of people that were happy to see Madiba, the ANC. The ANC is about to be unbanned. It's a massive thing in our country. The heroes, the liberators have arrived.
Yeah.
He's standing next to the man. And nobody wants to listen to it.
Yeah.
This was 1990. Whoever decided, and I was one of those idiots that said, Cyril Ramaphosa will be the best thing in this country.
Oh, wow.
I was one of those idiots.
Oh, well, at least you admit you were wrong.
Yeah. I was. And then I thought, him, Tokyo Sexwale, Sam Shaloa, I thought those three are the dream team. You put them in the highest offices of South Africa, we'll have change within 5 years. I was very wrong.
I called it from a mile away. I said, there's no way. I mean, when I looked at Uncle Posey's track record in the private sector.
You like this nickname, huh?
I love it. It just,
it's so friendly.
It's just rolls off the tongue. So Uncle Posey, I checked out like his track record in business, like in the private sector. And I was like, wait, you're calling this guy? This guy is going to save the country? It's like, hell no, come on.
You got to understand, from a standpoint.
Oh, please, you can't call him a businessman.
Come on.
But from a standpoint, the man had a lot of money to put in articles, put in this impression through PR that he is a businessman.
Again, it's these PR bullshitters that we were speaking about earlier.
So you can actually hire a PR management company for about 300K a month.
Why waste your money? It's not going to work.
Let's say you want to run politics now, right, Gareth? And you are going to bring change to the country. And you've got to overcome this, they're going to bring up every tweet you've ever tweeted and how you're such a terrible person. You need to now counter. Yeah.
Even the dumbest PR company could help.
Plus, everyone's so soft these days.
So you need to now come up with a strategy to overcome that. And I'm a changed man. My perspectives on South Africa have changed. A PR company can do this for you in a very artful way.
Well, charge like a wounded buffalo, and it won't change public.
Wounded buffalo is correct in the context of Ramaphosa. So he put R1 billion behind his campaign, and that was to buy out the NEC, because the NEC really controls the president. The president has no control over the
tons of money, and like you said earlier, money can make things happen.
100%. So
all right, so let's talk about the other groups, because you mentioned taxi associations, churches. Public workers, prisons is another thing we're going to look at.
Yeah.
What other places are we ignoring when we look at voters?
So, like the deaf and blind are something I'm very, passionate
You're wasting
about.
your time here with the deaf. I've got fucking around.
There's no politician.
Hello!
There's no politician that is actually approaching the deaf and blind community in South Africa. They are voters. They are not.
How many are there?
I don't exactly know the numbers. I'm still doing research on it. It's very difficult, but I don't know how much of the population. I don't even know how a blind person votes. I don't know how. So I need to get in touch with the IEC and find out.
Neither do they. Someone goes in and helps them and just makes them vote ANC.
There is an assisted vote where they assist you. And the IEC is very good with this, because when I volunteered on voting day, I watched how. Because whenever they had an assisted vote, they have to come tell the party agents, listen, one of the team has to assist this woman. She can't see right. She forgot her glasses, whatever the case is. And then we make a record of it to say this one person voted with an IEC person to help her. The IEC, despite everyone, and it's always uneducated people, not in a bad way. They don't know enough about the IEC that will say the IEC is biased. The IEC will rig the vote in favor of the ANC. They definitely will not. You guys have spoken to the IEC. I have full confidence.
I'm impressed. I really am impressed with them.
Same here.
So, there's that community. I think if Gator was out there, he can reach a deaf person.
Just because he's so loud.
So between him and Neil, one of them will reach the deaf people. They'll create miracles and people will start hearing again, because those guys are loud. But, no politician has actually targeted that market. Women are actually the massive voter pool in this country. 55% of the 27 million that have registered are women. So if you want to be a party that gets 51%, go after the women.
So then you don't think, like I do, that women should never have been given the vote?
No, I definitely don't think so. Because if you look at it,
Jack just goes quiet. It's like,
I
can't believe you just said.
I'm a fanatic of the private sector. It's been my passion from the time I was young.
Yeah.
So I follow the trends in the private sector a lot, and women in leadership in the private sector it's become very stabilizing as opposed to men. Whereas before there would be egos in the boardrooms. Now with greater women representation in the boardrooms, the executive, etc., there's a lot of balance around companies.
Women have made a huge contribution.
So I think
but I also think that just as men have egos and all sorts of masculine competitiveness, women can be absolutely
Well,
devastating
Yeah.
in not so constructive ways too. I mean, it's
Look
not
at Makosi.
it's not a gender thing.
Yeah,
look at
like
Makosi
we
Kosa.
manifest those negative things differently, but we still have them.
But to put it in perspective, guys, there's less than 10 female candidates that are running for president for this country. And I feel that's a travesty. Muzi Maimane, I respect him, but he's had his chance. The woman next to him, she's empowering. Give her the chance. You know you're not going to get 51% this year. But give your party the best chance. Muzi should step down as co-leader or co-president or whatever position you can create in the party. Let
That
her
would
go
attract
ahead.
you into that party, all right?
You know? So I'm not a woman,
Mm-mm.
but I think
you-
on these lines because I look at the numbers and the women are controlling the vote in South Africa.
Yeah.
And most of the issues, like if you look at the 75 people that will be killed every day in South Africa statistically, women make the biggest amount
Bigger
of that
chunk of
number.
that, yeah.
So, you know, mostly women are getting killed. Mostly women are
Yeah.
victims of GBV.
Yes.
They should be
women
controlling this
hold
vote.
communities together. They're the ones who, in this country more than anywhere else in the world, are keeping whole villages running.
And
Yeah.
single mothers
Single
built
mothers.
this country.
Massive.
There are so many leaders out today who have accomplished something because of a single mother.
Yeah.
And most of the grants are targeted
So
towards women.
Vera says, what if we elect a woman president and she goes on maternity leave for a year?
Oh my God. You guys are so bad. Jacinda.
We were having a
Ardern.
serious conversation
Yeah.
here, Vera.
No, Jacinda, it's a good point. It's a good point.
Please don't use
No,
Jacinda
don't-
Ardern as a
don't
good
do that.
example.
So,
of
no,
anything.
I'm just saying.
Don't do that. How is that a good
She's
point?
a terrible politician.
Why the long face?
When I because I was very WEF orientated.
Were you?
Yeah. I even tried to join them. But with me, no education, they didn't accept me. Anyway, so like Jacinda Ardern was when she started, before she became prime minister and a tyrant and a horrible person. She was very
still is.
empowering, you know? It was a young woman in a leadership position, along with the Swedish PM, the young girl that went partying while she's the PM
I
of the
liked
country.
her.
Of course you liked her.
Yeah.
Kenneth. She looked good. That's why you liked her. So that's how you get the male vote,
Put
guys.
3 men on here to try and talk about women. Invariably, it's going to deteriorate. So,
Yeah.
At
So,
some
ladies,
point.
I'm sorry.
so she had a child during her tenure.
Jacinda.
And, yeah,
Yeah, but she
Jacinda.
also had a stay-at-home husband, simp,
Yeah, but
beta
I
male.
mean, Kamala Harris as well also has a simp husband.
Yeah,
You know?
the simp husbands
It's
are
fashion
important.
now.
So I don't think
It's
we
like a Louis Vuitton bag. It's
yeah,
fashion.
I don't think we live in a
Look
country
here, it's my
or a world.
simp husband.
Yeah. Jump, Danny, jump.
Don't even talk. Pumzile van Dam has a simp husband as well.
Oh,
We never
you
knew.
didn't need to bring him up.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
no. I don't know his name, but I know.
If you actually become president, your husband, your simp husband, is a
It's a
easy
must
target.
have.
easy
Yeah.
target.
and he's allowed to be criticized.
Easy.
Mhm.
But I don't think we should be dragging everyone's husbands.
But it's just an example. But I mean, we live in a day and age now where women can have a child,
Mm.
have a successful
Sure.
career,
Mhm.
and still be
Nobody
active in
gave,
politics.
again, the greatest woman leader of the 20th century, Margaret Thatcher.
We agree.
No one said to her, well, what if she goes on maternity leave? And
No, they
what if
didn't.
this? And what if she used to cook supper for her husband and kids every other night?
Margaret had the most. I think she had. Theresa May tried to be Margaret, but
No.
you know, Margaret had the most criticism because she was a woman.
Yeah, of
They
course.
believed she could never be prime
Yeah,
minister.
and she did it.
And she was the best prime
Superb
minister.
job. Superb. Anyway, we got to
Yeah.
end it somewhere. So
Yeah.
it's 3 minutes after 8. I have a feeling that this show of yours is going to kick some ass, apart from being the grown ass group chat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Please watch it, guys.
No, we will.
I don't
we'll-
want 5 views.
No,
please.
no.
No, there's no way.
If you
There's
liked,
no chance.
if you liked what you heard this morning, you will find a whole lot more of it on the podcast party, and particularly on this new show with Xavier and with Jack.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Not forgetting Serena as well.
And
Thank you for
Serena,
having
yeah.
Serena.
Let's
Serena.
not ignore her because she's not here this morning, but we'll
Yeah.
get her on this show as well.
Definitely.
So we can let everybody know.
She's a powerhouse. I had her on a Twitter space last night, along with a whole lot of great South Africans. 190.
I wanted to join that until the electricity disappeared. So
I had issues with the electricity when we were trying to end. We started at 6:30. No, 7:30.
Mm.
We ended at about 10 because I had electricity issues.
Yeah.
It was
So-
amazing to hear average people talk. And I think that's something that people should do more of, like the comment section. The
Well,
guys in there are great.
This is
Yeah,
what
they
we're
are.
trying to do. And what the podcast party is trying to achieve here is also to expose lots of different opinions, to give people a chance to debate the stuff that actually moves South Africa forward, and to get young people especially to take ownership of their future.
Mhm.
And it's thanks to guys like you that these conversations will be facilitated.
Yeah.
So come and join us. Be a part of this. If you don't join any other party, as per Xavier's admonition that you should,
Yep.
then at least join the,
The
podcast,
podcast
party.
party.
To be
Yeah.
honest, guys, I don't even know which party I'm voting for yet.
Yeah,
Ah,
you sound like
so,
you're voting for
yeah.
Musi. All right. Very good. That's it, everybody. We will see you tomorrow at 6 a.m. And we've actually got that interview with a friendly Satanist
yeah.
tomorrow,
That's
which you
gonna
don't
be
want to
fun.
miss.
Oof.
So we will see you then. And again on Thursday with the Burning Platform.